They did not steal children in the dark. They did it in hospitals. They did it in churches. They did it with paperwork. And the Dutch government called it care. Between 1956 and 1984, an estimated 50,000 children were taken from unmarried Dutch mothers and handed to other families. Not because the mothers were dangerous, not because the mothers were unfit, because they were unmarried. And in the Netherlands, that was enough. The system had a name. They called it adoption. But the women who lived through it had another name for it. They called it theft. Here is what they never told you in school. The Netherlands built one of the most respected welfare systems in the world. Progressive politics, liberal values, a global reputation for tolerance and human rights. And behind that reputation, behind those church walls and those government offices, tens of thousands of women were being stripped of their children through coercion, silence, and lies. This is not ancient history. Some of the women this happened to are still alive today. Some of them are still waiting for answers. A young woman gets pregnant in 1965. She is not married. In the Netherlands in 1965, that is not just a personal problem. That is a moral catastrophe. Her family does not ask what she wants. Her priest does not ask what she wants. The social worker does not ask what she wants. They make the decision for her before she has finished speaking. She is sent to a Catholic maternity home, not as a patient, as a problem to be solved. She lives there for months. She scrubs floors. She is told to be grateful. She is told that giving up her child is the loving thing to do. She is told that a respectable family will give the baby a real future. She is not told she has a choice. When the baby is born, they take it from the room before she can hold it properly. A document is placed in front of her. A nun stands over her, and she signs, not because she wants to, because she does not know she can refuse, because no one in that room tells her she can refuse, because the entire system, the church, the state, the social workers, the doctors, has been built to make sure she does not refuse. The baby is registered. A new name is written in the ledger. The original mother's name is crossed out. And somewhere across the city, a respectable couple is handed an infant and told their family is now complete. The system worked perfectly. That is what makes this a crime. Now here is where it gets darker. The women who ran those homes were not rogue individuals acting alone. They were operating inside a coordinated network. Catholic institutions, Protestant institutions, government-licensed adoption agencies, private brokers collecting fees for every placement. All connected, all processing women and infants through the same pipeline. One researcher estimated that at the peak of the system in the late 1960s, 1 in 3 babies born to unmarried Dutch mothers was removed and adopted. 1 in 3, not 1 in 100, 1 in 3. And the mothers were told to be silent. They went home. They sat at dinner tables where no one mentioned the baby. They went back to their jobs. They married other people years later. And they carried this secret for decades because the shame the system placed on them was heavier than any law. Some of them never told their husbands. Some of them never told their other children. Some of them searched for 30 years and were told every single time that the records were sealed, that the law protected the adoptive family, that their grief was not legally relevant. But something changed. In the 2000s, the adult adoptees started talking. They had grown up. They had questions. They went looking for their original files. And what they found was a system that had been designed not just to transfer children, but to erase every trace of evidence that the original mothers had ever existed. Files falsified, dates changed, names removed, signatures obtained under duress and recorded as voluntary consent. In some cases, women had been told their babies were sick, or that the baby had not survived, only for the adult adoptee to discover decades later that they had been completely healthy and alive the entire time. Let that land. A mother was told her baby died. The baby did not die. The baby was given to another family. And both of them spent decades grieving a loss that was constructed entirely by the people running that institution. The mother grieved a living child. The child grew up never knowing their real name. And the institution that caused it faced no consequences whatsoever. In 2023, the Dutch government issued a formal apology. The state acknowledged that tens of thousands of women had been coerced, pressured, manipulated, and deceived across 3 decades. The Prime Minister stood in front of cameras and said the words, but no criminal prosecutions followed. No institution was dismantled. No individual was charged. No broker was arrested. The apology was real. The justice was not. And if you think this only happened in the Netherlands, you are not paying close enough attention. In Australia, the government ran a near-identical system from the 1950s through the 1980s. Unmarried mothers pressured in hospital beds. Babies removed before the mothers could hold them. Some women were sedated so they could not resist. In 2013, the Australian Prime Minister apologized to over 150,000 affected families. In Ireland, the Magdalene laundries, which this channel has already covered, operated the same machine. Women imprisoned behind convent walls. Their children taken and in many cases sold to overseas families. The Catholic Church the engine of all of it. In Canada, the government did not even wait for shame to be the weapon. In the 60s scoop, Indigenous children were forcibly removed from their families as official state policy and placed with white Canadian and American families. Some were sent as far as Europe. Some never found their way back. In Switzerland, poor and illegitimate children were placed into forced labor on rural farms under a system called the Verdingkinder. They were not adopted into families. They were assigned to them like livestock. In Spain under Francisco Franco, an estimated 300,000 babies were stolen from unmarried mothers in Republican families between the 1940s and the 1980s. Mothers were told their newborns had died in delivery. The babies were handed to regime-approved Catholic families the same day. Doctors falsified death certificates. Nuns acted as brokers. The operation ran for 40 years. The same crime. Different countries. Different decades. Different languages. The same logic underneath all of it. Find a woman the system has decided does not matter. Take her child. Dress it in the language of charity. Seal the records. Wait for the mothers to age and disappear. That was the plan. The plan almost worked. But the children grew up. And they came back asking questions. And governments that had spent decades protecting institutions started having to answer for them in public. Now you know what they found. There is a reason this story was buried. There is a reason you were never taught this in school. There is a reason governments waited until most of the perpetrators were dead or retired before they apologized. Because this was not a mistake. This was not a misunderstanding. This was policy. Deliberate. Coordinated. Funded. And policy requires people who designed it, people who enforced it, and people who chose to stay silent while it happened around them. This channel exists to make sure that silence ends. If this story reached you, share it right now. Someone in your life needs to see this. A mother, a daughter, someone who was told to be quiet about something that was done to them without their consent. Share this video and let them know they were not imagining it. They were not weak. They were not alone. This happened at scale. It was documented. It was deliberate. And it happened in one of the most progressive countries on the planet. Drop the word stolen in the comments if you watched until the very end. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be seen by more people, go to the Odd Archive page right now and leave us a 5-star review. When you review the page, Facebook pushes our content to new audiences. That means more buried stories, more forgotten victims, more covered-up systems finally dragged into the light. The mothers waited 50 years for someone to believe them. The least we can do is make sure the world never forgets what was done to them.